and answered questions, but thank you for explaining the Pentagon's position and reasoning behind it today.
Thank you.
Well, it's time now for the House of Representatives. They've just come into session on this Friday morning. Among their items, consideration of the Energy and Water Appropriations Act. Have a great weekend. Thanks for being with us.
Our Chaplain, Father Conroy.
Let us pray. Eternal God, we give you thanks for giving us another day. As the House gathers at the end of a difficult week, grant the members peace and calm that they might attend to the issues and policies that they continue to consider. May they honor the values and traditions that we share as a people. Help them be mindful of the gifts of peace, justice, fairness, and respect that are our common heritage. As it is so often easy for all of us to focus on what separates one from another, may our understanding that you have created us as one people remind us of the values that bind us all together as Americans in the human family. May all that is done this day in the People's House be for your greater honor and glory. Amen.
The Chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by the gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Quigley.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Chair will entertain up to 5 requests for 1-minute speeches on each side. For what purpose does the gentlelady from North Carolina rise?
To address the House for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlewoman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If our nation's debt crisis has taught us anything, it's that we need a permanent fiscal solution to keep America the permanent land of the free for our children and grandchildren. There's only one way to bind Congress to such a commitment, and that is a constitutional amendment requiring us to balance the budget. Ordinary spending cuts and pledges to slash the deficit are no longer sufficient. Washington went on a record spending binge in the last 2 years and left Americans in an economic hangover. New taxes, as some propose, would only punish the victim and reward the spenders with more money to waste. We need to stop spending money we don't have and begin living within our means. The future of our nation depends on it. A Washington promise is always temporary. A constitutional amendment is permanent. For the sake of tomorrow's generations, let's get it done today. I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back her time. What purpose does the gentleman from Ohio rise?
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Request permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
The huffing and puffing over the debt crisis is reminiscent of Washington's tumult over the Wall Street bailout. Panic the public with claims the sky is falling, and then start to drop things from the sky. In this case, threats that Social Security checks will not be sent out. We must avoid default. But Social Security didn't cause the debt crisis. Social Security has nothing to do with the debt crisis. Withholding Social Security checks or cutting Social Security benefits would represent a default to the American people and an abandonment of the principles of economic justice that created Social Security. The White House wants a big deal, a $4 trillion debt deal. But that deal must not come from cuts to Social Security or Medicare, for that matter. Millions of senior citizens who in their lifetime built this country, who fought for this country, who depend on these Social Security checks as an economic lifeline, want to see if their concerns are a big deal to us. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kansas rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute and rise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise in defense of small business owners across the country who are attempting to survive under a mountain of taxes, rules, and regulations coming out of Washington, D.C. 7 out of 10 new jobs in this country are created by small business owners. To get our economy back on track, we know it's these innovators and entrepreneurs that have to start growing and creating jobs. Entrepreneurship is at a 17-year low. In the last few years, there has been a 23% drop in new business creation, falling to the lowest level since 1994. Instead of debating ways to raise taxes and further burden these job creators, we should spend our time trying to eliminate the job-killing policies coming out of this administration. Mr. Speaker, it's time that we support the free enterprise system. It's time that we get our fiscal house in order, and it's time that we get America back to work again. Now yield back.
Gentleman yields back his time. What purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to honor a great Rhode Island citizen and a dear friend, the late Malcolm Kim Chase. My fellow Rhode Islanders and I have lost a great leader in Kim's passing. He will long be remembered for his warmth, his humor, and his devotion to the community. Kim was a brilliant business leader. You couldn't be in the same room with him and not realize how intelligent he was. Equally apparent was his tremendous generosity of spirit. He demonstrated that generosity over again and again in contributions to numerous community and educational organizations, including Women and Infants Hospital, Trinity Repertory Company, Brown University, Bryant University, the Gordon School, the Rhode Island School of Design, to name just a few. Kim was always happy to donate his time and resources to the service of Rhode Island. He always offered a quiet kindness to me and to all those around him. Kim was a true gentleman. Kim's most important treasure was his wonderful family. My thoughts and prayers are with Liz and the entire Chase family. Kim's presence will be deeply missed. I yield back the balance of my time.
What purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise? Without objection, the gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. America is facing a fiscal crisis of unprecedented proportions. $14 trillion national debt, another $1.6 trillion deficit, and now a debt ceiling crisis looms. As negotiations go forward, members of Congress have a choice to make. We can take a stand or we can take a pass. I say it's time to take a stand. And the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act of 2011 is that stand. As the White House and liberals here on Capitol Hill continue to argue over the details of some kind of an obscure, complicated deal over raising the debt ceiling, in the coming days, House Republicans will bring legislation to the floor that will give the American people a choice. And it will be a choice built on fiscal responsibility and reform. The legislation that will come to the floor will cut spending now. It will cap spending in the law, and it will make any increase in the debt ceiling contingent on sending a balanced budget amendment to the states. I urge my colleagues to support the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act of 2011, and I urge my fellow Americans to let your voice be heard in the coming days. We can cut spending now, we can cap spending in the law, and we can send a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution to the states for ratification. But the American people must engage. A minority in Congress plus the American people equals a majority. Help us as we achieve this needed reform and restore fiscal sanity to our national government.
The gentleman yields back his time. What purpose does the gentleman from Oregon rise? Without objection, the gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 1 minute.
Amidst the spreading scandal of the Murdoch News Corporation, it's clear that it wasn't, as they first claimed, just a rogue reporter or two. There's a pattern of abuse, some illegal, that was widely practiced and known, perhaps encouraged, certainly tolerated. It is important for the FBI, the SEC, hopefully Congress itself, to investigate the News Corp, Fox, Wall Street Journal conglomerate, and not just about the concerns of potential spying on 9/11 victims, which would be reprehensible if true, but possible violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, which makes it illegal for American citizens to bribe foreign officials. Some claim we ought to go easy on the Murdoch News Corporation so we don't appear partisan. But just giving money to the Republican Party, hiring Republican presidential candidates, slanting the news and commentary should not give them a pass for questionable, perhaps illegal conduct. We must ensure that Americans are not abused by the News Corp management, practices, or employees.
What purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, the gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The President wants Congress to raise the debt ceiling without corresponding plan to cut spending and balance the budget, and insists raising taxes is the only way forward. The reality is that doing so amounts to a Barack Obama bailout for his out-of-control spending that got us here in the first place, a bailout for his $1 trillion Obamacare, a bailout for the failed stimulus, a bailout for government motors, a bailout for Fannie and Freddie. According to a new poll in Politico, voters expressed significantly more support for spending cuts, and only 11% of voters see tax hikes as the main way of closing the deficit. America's got it right. It's time to cut spending, balance the budget, and pay down the debt for our children and our grandchildren without raising taxes. Just say no to a Barack Obama bailout. Even his bailouts need a bailout. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. What purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mark Twain is credited with quipping, "Denial ain't just a river in Egypt." If he were around today, he might add, it also passes for gun policy in the U.S. Congress. The ATF is under fast and furious fire right now, and rightly so. Allowing hundreds of guns to walk in hopes of catching big fish traffickers was terribly ill-advised. But so too is Congress' excuse for gun policy. And sorry, folks, but the two are not entirely unrelated. If Congress wants to crack down on straw purchasing and stop the trafficking of firearms in Mexico, it is operating from the mother of all playbooks of how you should not accomplish it. Chapter 1, ensure that the ATF remains devoid of leadership. Chapter 2, pass only perfunctory straw purchasing laws. Chapter 3, attempt to block a simple, common-sense proposal that border state dealers report multiple sales of AK-47s. Chapter 4, author legislation to immunize corrupt gun dealers and call it the ATF Modernization Act. It's true. Denial River in Congress runs fast, wide, and deep. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. What purpose does the gentleman from New York rise?
Unanimous consent, Mr. Speaker, to address the House for 1 minute and to revise and extend.
Without objection, the gentleman from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in this, the 27th week of this session of Congress, and continue to ask the leadership in our House to move legislation that will create jobs. Over the course of the last few weeks and months, this body has been so obsessed with the debt ceiling that it seems to have forgotten a plain and simple truth that the American people acknowledged last November and repeat over and over again. The best way to grow our economy and drive down the deficit is to put people back to work. And there are plenty of people looking for work. With unemployment around 9%, this body must make jobs and the economy our top priority. In fact, a Quinnipiac poll released yesterday found that by a 30-point margin, Americans say it is more important to reduce unemployment than to reduce the budget deficit. But the biggest threat to jobs today? Failure to increase the debt ceiling and playing politics with our economy. Holding the economy hostage in order to protect big oil, tax cuts for the wealthy, and tax loopholes for companies that ship jobs overseas is not only un-American, it's immoral. Leadership requires difficult decisions and compromise. I hope we'll see more of these traits in the coming days, not less. With that, Mr. Speaker, I thank you and yield back.
The gentleman's time has expired. What purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 2354.
Without objection. Pursuant to House Resolution 337 and Rule 18, the Chair declares the House and the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of H.R. 2354. Will the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Poe, kindly resume the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for further consideration of H.R. 2354. which the clerk will report by title.
A bill making appropriations for energy and water development and related agencies for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2012, and for other purposes.
When the Committee of the Whole rose on Thursday, July the 14th, 2011, the bill had been read through page 62, line 2. For what purpose does the gentleman from California seek recognition?
I have an amendment at the desk and printed in the record.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 79, printed in the Congressional Record, offered by Mr. Sherman of California.
Pursuant to order of the House on Thursday, July 14th, 2011, the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Sherman.
Chair, let me begin with a completely irrelevant digression on a completely different matter. Today it was announced that the United States will recognize the Libyan rebels as the legitimate government of Libya. If that is true, we should make an immediate demand on that government that it use the $33 billion or some portion thereof of Gaddafi money that is frozen in the United States to reimburse the American taxpayer for all of the military actions and humanitarian actions we have taken for the benefit of the people of Libya. There is no reason that these actions should be done at the cost of the United States taxpayer, and that the real cost of our military actions in Libya should be calculated on the basis of full cost accounting, not the marginal cost accounting that has been used in press releases from the Pentagon. Now for my amendment. This amendment deals with the international programs carried out by the Department of Energy. It is in some ways a rival to or an alternative to the amendment presented by Mr. Harris last night. Mr. Harris's amendment would eliminate all of these programs with the exception of one, and thus reduce roughly $8 million, I believe, $6 million in cost. My amendment eliminates those programs that go to China while leaving the remaining programs. So if you don't want to see American taxpayer money used to benefit Chinese manufacturers, you have two alternatives. Maybe you'll vote for them both, but some will just vote for my amendment that focuses on the $2 million we spend in China. The Harris amendment would have you also, perhaps in an effort to eliminate the money going to Chinese, going for the benefit of Chinese manufacturers, to also cut our cooperative programs that are chiefly with Latin America and Canada. I believe that it is in our interest to continue to provide energy efficiency assistance to our partners here in this hemisphere. First, these are our allies. These are, in most cases, poor countries that we're trying to help. Their energy costs are very high, particularly in recent years, and one of the best ways to help them is to help them reduce their energy bill. But it also helps the American consumer, because if you can reduce worldwide aggregate demand for energy, particularly oil, you reduce the worldwide price. So it is in our interest to carry on the very small programs that have been effective in helping Mexico and Costa Rica and Dominica and other Caribbean states to achieve higher levels of energy efficiency. However, I do not think it is in our interest to spend the $2 million that we provide to provide fancy American consultants to go over to China at no cost to them to give them ideas on how to reduce their energy usage. If the Chinese wanted this advice, unlike poor countries in Latin America, they can well afford to pay for it. If you can afford a consultant and you choose not to hire one, you probably don't want one, and you're probably not going to listen to the consultant. So if China needs American technology to reduce their energy usage, they can and should pay for it. They could just send us back an infinitesimal portion of the U.S. bonds being held in Beijing. This amendment that I offer today eliminates the possibility that this bill will be used to provide aid and foreign aid and corporate aid to the Chinese government and Chinese business. And I may have sounded a little confused as to where it's private sector and public sector in China. Of course, that's because in China those two things are confused. So I hope that you will support my amendment, view it as an alternative to the Harris Amendment, and I hope that you'll vote against the Harris Amendment because it does make sense for us to spend a very small amount of money in cooperative programs, chiefly here in this hemisphere, to help reduce energy usage by countries that we are providing foreign aid to for the most part because they are poor countries and are our allies. With that, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from California reserves the balance of his time. Who seeks recognition?
I move to strike the last word.
The gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 5 minutes.
I appreciate the recognition and rise in very reluctant reservation to the gentleman's amendment. I do not, speaking for myself as an individual, trust the Chinese government. Representing the largest steel-producing district in the United States of America, I have simply seen them eat our economic lunch. We have had innumerable hearings in this Congress under varied administrations of both political parties telling us that dialogue with China is going to work and that somehow it is going to lead to miraculous job creation in the United States of America versus the country of China. I join with the gentleman in urging all of my members later this morning to vote against Mr. Harris's amendment, and that we have no disagreement. And I join with the gentleman from California's concern about how the Department of Energy is going to implement this program with the Chinese. Because we are told by the department that this program is going to help U.S. cities develop more cleanly, and it's going to provide market opportunities for U.S. clean tech companies. We're told further that for wind and solar, there will be, in the future, market opportunities. For just one time, I would appreciate the Department of Energy showing me the jobs, the companies, the cities, the towns, the industries where this type of cooperation with China has led to a job in the United States of America. So it is with the greatest reluctance I hesitate to support the gentleman's amendment, agreeing with everything he has said. I would yield to the chairman.
I associate my remarks with those of the ranking, and thank you for a very thoughtful amendment, and share your apprehensions about what the American job prospects relative to this program. Thank you for yielding.
And the logical question of my colleagues is, well, Pete, why are you even standing up talking about this if you agree with everything the gentleman said? I basically do. My concern right now is if we do terminate U.S. involvement in the International Partnership for Energy Efficiency Cooperation, which is based at the International Energy Agency, we have 14 other member nations. And I am just concerned about taking this particular unilateral action, but that is about the only concern I have with the remarks of the gentleman, and I would yield back my time.
The gentleman from Indiana yields back his time. The gentleman from California.
I would just build on the remarks of the ranking member and which the chairman chose to associate himself with, and say if those are speeches against my amendment, I welcome them. And I hope those that are listening will not just note on which side the gentleman rose, but what they actually said. And the content of what they said, I think, supports my amendment far more eloquently than I can, which is why I yield back.
The gentleman from California yields back his time. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from California. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. What? Pursuant to Clause 6...
I withdraw my request.
The amendment is adopted by voice vote. What purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
To strike the last word and to yield to the Congressman from Louisiana, Mr. Scalise.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Would the distinguished chairman of the Energy and Water Development Subcommittee yield for a point of clarification?
I'd be pleased to yield to my colleague from Louisiana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Section 501A provides to the Corps of Engineers more than $1 billion in emergency supplemental funding for disaster relief. The section makes those funds available, quote, for emergency expenses for repair of damages caused by the storm and flood events of 2011. Am I correct in my understanding that included in the damages to be addressed by Section 501A is the loss of navigational channel dimensions caused by or exacerbated by this year's floods?
If you gentlemen would yield.
Yes, gentleman would yield.
The gentleman from Louisiana is correct. The intent of Section 501A is to fund the repair of damages to levees and navigation channels caused by the floods of 2011. The committee has provided more than $1 billion in Title V of our bill to address navigation channel dimensions and make levee repairs.
I thank the distinguished chairman. As many of our colleagues know, it is critical in Louisiana and elsewhere throughout the nation to restore as quickly as possible the flood control and navigation integrity of our inland waterways system. And again, I thank the chairman of the committee for yielding, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Louisiana yields back to the chairman. The gentleman
before I yield back, I want to thank the gentleman for his strong advocacy on behalf of his constituents and so many other members of Congress who were affected by the incredible devastation of recent floods. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back his time. For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida rise?
Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment offered by Mr. Hastings of Florida. At the end of the bill, before the short title, insert the following section. None of the funds made available by this act may be used in contravention of Executive Order Number 12898 of February 11, 1994, Federal Actions to Address Environmental Justice in Minority Populations and Low-Income Populations.
Pursuant to the order of the House on Thursday, July 14, 2011, the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Hastings, and a member opposed, each will control 5 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Hastings.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I rise to offer this amendment that ensures that the most vulnerable members of our society no longer bear disproportionately more than their share of the environmental costs in their community. Mr. Chairman, I first offered this measure the exact same amendment in the year 2005, and it was adopted into law. It has since been adopted into law in 2 other appropriations bills. This is the right thing to do. Environmental justice is an effort to achieve health and environmental equity across all community lines. Mr. Chairman, I ask that my amendment be supported and unanimous consent to have my full statement included in the record.
Without objection, statement is entered.
I move to strike the last word.
Is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the recognition and rise in strong support of the gentleman's amendment. Appreciate him raising the issue and him offering the amendment, and certainly strongly support his intention here. And I would be happy to yield to my chairman.
I concur with the ranking's view and commend you for your efforts. No objection.
And I would yield back my time.
I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Florida has yielded back his time. The questions on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Florida. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. What purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
I ask unanimous consent that the request for a recorded vote on amendment number 70, offered by the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Burgess, be vacated to the end that the chair put the question de novo.
No, but who? Is there an objection to the request of the gentleman from New Jersey? If not, the request for a recorded vote on amendment number 70 is vacated. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 70, printed in the congressional record, offered by Mr. Burgess of Texas.
The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Burgess. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise?
I moved to strike the last word. I realize we are at the end of the amendment process. I do not want to take members' time unduly.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
But just simply want to make a couple of observations in closing on the debate. I again want to thank Chairman Frelinghuysen, as well as the chairman of the full committee, Mr. Rogers, and Mr. Dix, ranking member here, for their tireless work. As I said at the beginning, Mr. Frelinghuysen has been a leader on this subcommittee on energy and water issues, but he has also been a tremendous partner. This process has been transparent. It has been open. It has been thoughtful. As people who have followed the last 5 days understand, we have not agreed on every issue, but have worked very closely together. I truly, personally, appreciate that, and as a public official and member of this body, I appreciate that. Also, again, because we all know as members of the committee who does the work to make this such an exceptional bill, again, want to personally thank the staff, Rob Blair, Joe Levin, Lorraine Heckenberg, Angie Giancarlo, Perry Yates, Tanya Berkman, Nancy Fox, Katie Hazlitt, Joe DeVoe. Everyone has their expertise. We may have separate offices, but we have, I think, collectively worked very well together to fashion a wonderful bill. But I would be happy to yield.
Effort. This is not a perfect bill, but I want to say how much I appreciate working with Congressman Frelinghuysen, especially on modernization of our new reactor for the follow-on Trident submarine. This is an enormously important program, and the chairman's worked with us to make sure that the funding is appropriate and timely so that we can keep this program on track. And for that, I appreciate it, and all the staff. And Chairman Rogers, again, thank you for regular order and staying with this, and glad we were able to get a unanimous consent agreement. So
the gentleman
I'm happy to yield to the chairman.
I'd also like to thank Ranking Member Pete Visklosky for his friendship and our working relationship putting together this energy and water bill, which on the water side affects every congressional district. And it's important. I think we've done the right thing, and of course the reliability of our nuclear stockpile, the issues relating to non-proliferation. But I think we put together a great bill, and I want to thank you for your leadership and our working relationship. And I won't mention by name since you've done it so well, the excellent staff that allows us to move forward in a really non-partisan, bipartisan way. And to the big chairman, thank you, Mr. Rogers, for your support in quite a long haul here on this bill, and I appreciate your loyal support and our working relationship. And to the ranking, thank you so much, Norm, Mr. Dix, for your support and help, and the friendship we've had on the Defense Appropriations Committee along with the ranking member. And I'd be happy to yield.
Be happy to yield to the full committee chair.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and to thank Chairman Frelinghuysen and Mr. Visklosky for a hard, super effort. This has not been an easy bill, to say the least. and you've stayed with it, and you have written a good bill, and you have, I think, defended a good bill. There have been amendments that have passed, at least on voice vote, that I think helped the bill. But I want to remind members that this bill normally, in past years, has been one of the homes of earmarks. This bill was practically all earmarks in years past. And to the great credit of this subcommittee, you have not allowed any earmarks, not one, which is a remarkable achievement and merits the support, I think, of every single member of this body. Number two, we gave you a real tough 302B number to deal with. That I admit from the very beginning. It was we were trying to implement the budget that passed this House, and the allocation you received was very stingy. But you have, I think, done great credit to yourselves and to the rest of us by using that limited allocation and stretched it out as far as you could stretch it. And I think you've got a good bill. In fact, the numbers in this bill, we're going back to 06 levels. 06 levels. Now, when we started out, it was, I asked the gentleman to give it.
I ask unanimous consent the gentleman have one additional minute.
Without objection, the gentleman has additional 1 minute.
With Jim Neal.
Yeah, absolutely.
You went back, you've gone back to the 06 levels, which is a huge cut in spending. So you've done your share of helping us get the nation's fiscal house back in order. And I want to thank my colleague, Mr. Dix, who at the very outset of this year agreed with me in toto that we would get this committee back into regular order. And he's living up to that every day since that time. So thank you, Mr. Dix, for doing a great job. And I want to thank these two, the chairman and ranking member of this subcommittee, a model of civility and working together for a common cause. Thanks for a great job. I yield back.
Again, thank the staff very much, and yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back his time. Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, proceedings will now resume on those amendments on which further proceedings were postponed in the following order. Amendment number 26 by Mr. Cole of Oklahoma, an amendment by Mr. Cohen of Tennessee, an amendment by Mr. Gosar of Arizona, an amendment by Ms. Kaptur of Ohio, First Amendment by Mr. Flake of Arizona, an amendment by Ms. Capps of California, Second Amendment by Mr. Flake of Arizona, an amendment by Mr. Scalise of Louisiana, Amendment number 81 by Mr. Brown of Georgia, Amendment 63 by Mr. Brown of Georgia, Amendment 76 by Mr. Landry of Louisiana, First Amendment by Ms. Blackburn of Tennessee, Second Amendment by Ms. Blackburn of Tennessee, Amendment 53 by Mr. Harris of Maryland, an amendment by Mr. Rohrabacher from California, an amendment by Ms. Adams of Florida. The Chair will reduce to 2 minutes the time for any electronic vote after the first vote in this series. The unfinished business is the request for a recorded vote on Amendment 26 presented or printed in the congressional record by the gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole, on which further proceedings were postponed and on which the ayes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment number 26, printed in the congressional record, offered by Mr. Cole of Oklahoma.
A recorded vote has been requested. Those in support of the request for a recorded vote will rise and be counted. A sufficient number having risen, a recorded vote is ordered. Members will record their votes by electronic device. This is a 15-minute vote.
Here in the House today, amendment votes leading up to a vote on final passage of the $30 billion energy and water bill that funds the Energy Department and the Army Corps of Engineers. Meanwhile, at the White House, President Obama is holding a second press conference in a week about the debt and deficit talks, giving an update on where the negotiations stand. Our live coverage of the President will be on C-SPAN 2 and C-SPAN Radio with your reaction, your phone calls after the press conference. The press conference scheduled for 11 a.m. Eastern Time, just under 20 minutes from now. Lawmakers are also working on a Plan B, a fallback plan, if they can't reach agreement on raising the debt ceiling in the federal budget. Washington Post writing that it's an elaborate legal framework to raise the debt limit by $2.5 trillion that would place the entire political burden for the unpopular move on President Obama. The plan by Senate Republican leader McConnell includes no mechanism to force the sharp spending cuts that Republicans have demanded in exchange for voting to lift the debt limit. That in the Washington Post. So you can see the President's press conference followed by your phone calls live on C-SPAN 2 starting at 11 a.m. Eastern. Members of the House voting on an amendment offered by Republican Tom Cole of Oklahoma that would prohibit the use of funds to implement any regulation that requires the disclosure of political contributions. 15 more amendment votes after this one. Congressional Quarterly writing that the spending bill contains funding for the Energy Department, the Army Corps of Engineers, the Interior Department's Bureau of Reclamation, and several regional water and power authorities. It would also provide about $2 billion less than current spending level and just under $6 billion less than President Obama has requested, which is a reduction of almost 19%. Amendment voting continues here in the House. In addition to our live coverage of President Obama talking about the debt negotiations live on C-SPAN 2 in about 10 minutes from now, the national governors are meeting, gathering from across the country in Salt Lake City, Utah, starting today for a weekend of the National Governors Association annual summer meeting. We're going to have live coverage today of the National Governors Association Higher Education as a Catalyst for Economic Growth. That's happening at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, also on C-SPAN 2. Then at 5 o'clock, the U.S.-China Governors Forum. The forum established to strengthen a dialogue between the two countries. Appearing at that forum, the Chinese provincial governors. We'll have both of those events from the NGA live on C-SPAN 2. The House is expected to finish work on the energy and water spending bill today. A congressional quarterly writing that the chamber adopted a handful of amendments to the bill yesterday, including one aimed at doubling the funding in the bill for the Yucca Mountain license application. The bill would also block the Obama administration from shutting down the Yucca Mountain nuclear waste storage facility and provide $35 million for nuclear waste disposal activities. Fifteen more amendment votes here in the House, leading up to a vote on final passage of the energy and water spending bill. President Obama just appeared in the White House briefing room. We're covering that live on C-SPAN 2, talking about the deficit negotiations. Politico writing that the briefing is a chance to give reporters to ask the president questions about what he thinks of Mitch McConnell's plan to give the president power to raise the debt limit, his confrontation with Eric Cantor, and potentially other matters like Don't Ask, Don't Tell, campaign fundraising, and the Republican field of presidential candidates. Again, our live coverage of President Obama happening right now on C-SPAN 2. After this press briefing, we'll take your calls. As amendment voting continues here in the House, President Obama is talking live right now from the White House briefing room. We're carrying it on C-SPAN 2 and also at C-SPAN Radio. President saying initially that he's encouraged that by all sides in the spending debate, recognizing the need to address the debt limit. Meanwhile, Associated Press writing that Republicans plan a House vote next week on a bill that would cut spending and tie an increase to the government's debt limit to passage of a constitutional amendment requiring a balanced budget.
$249, the nays are 169. The amendment is adopted. The unfinished business is a request for a recorded vote on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Cohen, on which further proceedings were postponed, on which the noes prevailed by voice vote. The clerk will redesignate the amendment.
Amendment offered